Let's talk about that.
I am an idiot. I was foolish. Wrong, some might even say. I have previously made the case that Bandai Namco, the company who owns Pac-Man, has, for the most part, given up on said IP in favor of nothing but re-releases / rehashes of their original game. I mean, hell, it's been, 8 years since they let this thing walk on legs? Or just anything that wasn't you, some ghosts, and a maze? But somehow, by either cruel or fortunate fate, not 2 months later,
Pac-Man World Re-Pac! Coming August 26, 2022!
of course, just in time to make me look like an asshole. So, you know Pac-Man World, PS1 game, platformer, the thing I pronounced as officially dead. Well, I guess miracles do happen, cause it got a remake, which was definitely some type of news to me. However, if I'm being honest, can't say I was too surprised by this sudden announcement. Just before this, Pac-Man Museum Plus released, being a compilation of almost all past games from the series, minus the worlds, which I have been enjoying a lot, despite what some may believe. I'm only human, alright? No matter how repetitive these are, I can't deny who I am. A man with poor taste. Anyways, not the point. The reason I bring this compilation up is because in it, you can access all these titles via a hub world where you can control Pac-Man in all his new model glory. On top of that, as you continue to play, you'll start to unlock characters from the series as trophies or characters who will walk around your arcade. And if you'll notice, each and every one has a new design or model. Why do you think that is? Don't answer, I don't care. But yeah, I found it very hard to believe these were just for show. Namco was definitely using Museum Plus as a means to familiarize their new models a bit to the audience while planning something bigger in the process. We just didn't know what that was. Until now, obviously. An old reliable, the infamous video game remake. What better money laundering scheme could you ask for than one that tricks people into thinking you as a company care too? Oh, and before we jump in, I should mention that as this is a remake, I will be judging it as such. So prepare for a lot more comparisons and nostalgia bias. Oh, okay, so we start out with the new and improved cutscenes. It's the same story here. Pac-Man's family gets kidnapped on his birthday, he goes to the island, Toc-Man. It's all there once more, while adding a bit more cutscene to strengthen the story. In other words, a bit less cut to the scene. And of course, better animation. Weirdly enough though, the voice acting has been dropped in favor of this Animal Crossing type of speech where it's just sounds accompanied by text translation. Even worse, Pac-Man himself is just mute. I don't know, man. I'm just not a fan. At least give him a few one-liners or quips, any personality at all. Cause what I see here is more of a blank slate, and not in the charming way like Link. I am a Pac-Man World 3 connoisseur, okay? I need my fill of sarcastic midlife crisis Pac-Man. How will I know how to feel emotion if my points of reference can't either? So, starting this out with both pros and cons and conflicted feelings so far, let's transition to what actually matters. The game. Well, you get exactly what you purchased. Pac-Man World in HD. Graphically, yeah, I'm impressed. All the models, textures, lighting look amazing. But that's not what I'm concerned about. How do the controls feel? That's the real hard-hitting question. As a heads up, I quite literally just finished the original game before immediately playing this one, so any and all differences are going to be 10 times more noticeable to me. And I think I just noticed the difference. First of all, having 360 movement here is like God coming down from heaven to agree with your political views. It feels great. Cause playing on a D-pad with only 8 directions was not cutting it before, so that's a plus. And also now, whenever you grab a power pellet, you become giant for a short while, destroying almost everything in your path. I mean, I was definitely caught off guard by it, though only cause it was unexpected. Truthfully, it makes what was a simple power-up a lot more interesting and visually appealing, so once again, I approve. Let's see, what else is new? They gave Pac-Man a flutter jump. After jumping, you can press your console-specific button to stay in the air for a few more seconds. It's a fine addition that doesn't really do any harm, it's just something I never used mainly because I forgot it existed. Oh, and for some reason they mapped the flutter jump move to the leftmost button, which used to be the one used to pull off the rev roll. However, now that action is mapped to the top button, so just gonna swap that. Besides that though, all the other moves are practically the same, with minor changes like the ability to walk by lightly tapping the joystick. Grabbing the ledge is much easier and more accurate. When in the water, Pac-Man conveniently sinks on his own without needing to swim down manually. There's a longer pause in the air when you perform a butt bounce, which is kinda annoying. However, most egregiously, the metal power-up doesn't last as long as it does in the original. Awful. So overall, what do I really think about the changing gameplay? Even with all my criticisms and complaints with it, I have to say it's definitely much better than the original. Shocker, I know. Look, it's controls from a PS1 game. My morals envy how low the bar is. Even still, there is a lot more here than just some physics improvement. Like this example I very consciously left out from the previous examples. During the maze sections of the game, if you've never played Pac-Man World, yes, there are sections where you go through a maze eating dots while avoiding ghosts. Let your size out one at a time, please, okay. But now you can actually zoom out the screen to see the entire layout of the maze, something that wasn't possible before. I mean, sure, you could still play it with the normal camera angle, but then again, whoever I'm talking about doesn't exist, rendering this conversation meaningless. Another cool little change here is the magic key, an item that lets you open any locked door without the need for its corresponding fruit. This was in the original Pac-Man world, requiring an absurd 1 million points to obtain. No thank you. However, now in the remake, you only need 765,000 points. Definitely much more obtainable. I actually got it myself before even beating the game. It's just a nice little change here that I thought was more than worth mentioning. Moving on, once beating the first level, we get sent to the overworld here, which, to my surprise, has a very different setup. Normally, I wouldn't even discuss this part of the game, but the change here is one of the biggest overhauls so far. So if you don't know, in the PS1 original, the map worked like a linear, straightforward path. There were different worlds, they were all just accessed by continuously walking to the right. That's all changed. It's more like a hub than an overworld now. You start out on the main pirate island with the ruins to your left and the space world to your right. Then, once clearing all three of those areas, you obtain access to the upper area leading to the three remaining worlds in the same layout. Not only that, but back in the original, there were specific modes you could play that were accessed via the title screen. Those are now accessible in the hub world, hence the new name. Instead of just levels, all the game's content can be found here. I do kinda have a soft spot for the way it was arranged back then, however, this is definitely more coherent. As for the levels themselves, well, there's not much to say really. All of them are laid out almost exactly how they were before, minus some very slight changes that are probably there, I just haven't noticed. Same letters to collect, mazes to find, and cages to open. I only caught a few differences here, like how they introduced metal variants of the enemies sprinkled around the stages, requiring a metal power-up to defeat, obviously, as well as a lot more checkpoints and power-ups in some of the levels. Oh right, and these medals that are just kinda a different way to activate the slot machine. However, even though that part of the game seems to be all too familiar, I cannot say the same for the real highlights, the bosses. They are all different. Like, we're talking entirely different mechanics most of the time, with the inclusion of these small cutscenes right before every one, which is nice. The least of these changes would have to be the first boss here, still having the same strategy of defeat, only changing some attacks and the button layout. Now, if you're unaware, it should be known that the original Pac-Man world is what I would call difficult. This game will make you its bitch. If you've ever fought Anubis Rex or King Galaxian, you know what I'm talking about. Well, I'm delighted to say that the bullshit has been superseded by actually balanced, while still challenging, boss fights, complete with new and old modified attacks for both of these guys. The only issue I have here is it feels as if the King Galaxian battle may be too easy now, especially since you can rapid fire by just holding the jump button, though it's still fun regardless. If we want to talk about extremely huge changes though, look no further than our last 3 bosses, starting with the Clown Pre. First person kart racing. Drastic and disorienting. I love it. The next one, Chrome Keeper, is straight up just an entirely new boss compared to the original. Even the design of him is almost unrecognizable. And inferior. The battle is still competent enough on its own. It kinda just surprised me at first is all. You still require the metal power-up to win, and the magnets and boxes return, but that's about it. Honestly, can't tell if I like this more or not. And last but not least, there's Toc-Man. I'll just say it, I prefer his older design. Don't get me wrong, this version is great, but the jankiness really sold the character more for me. Anyways, not the main concern. How is the boss fight? Well, the first phase was definitely completely different. I mean, you still gotta use the pellets to hurt him, but all his attacks are new. However, after making it through that part... Alright, that's kinda cool. He uses the metal power-up. What? And then he uses another power-up in the third phase. Why do I like this? The attacks executed with them are kinda meh. And also every time I'm low on health, I'm forced to sit through dialogue and a cutscene. Every single time. Like, why pull me out of what was a cool battle? This is dumb. But overall, the whole thing is undoubtedly a big improvement from the past. So we kick his ass, and incoming a really cool detail, depending on if you save all of your family or not, you will actually get a different ending. While in the original, it was required to rescue everyone, here, it's optional. That is so freaking cool. It means you can do a terrible person run of the game. Not saving everyone will result in Pac-Man just eating the ghost, controlling Toc-Man, like in the PS1 version. However, if you do save all of your family, bada bing bada boom, the redemption arc. Amazing. And credits. So, after all that's finally over, we do get some after-game Would you stop? Okay. So after all that's finally over, we do get some after-game content. And by some, I mean one thing. Which is an arcade cabinet in the hub world that lets you play the original Pac-Man. Wonder where I could have seen this before. Okay, look, I fully understand that this was in the original game, so by proxy, it needs to be here. But goddamn, how many ports of Pac-Man are even on the Switch now? Seriously, this feels like a whole slimy sack of nothing when I own this damn thing like 50 times over. Yeah, I feel justified in staying up till 5 AM beating this game, why do you ask? Now, if you want to know what a real reward would be, just port the PS1 version in as a fun completion gift. The thing's doing nothing but turning to dust at this point. Why not give it a new purpose to show the people who are only now experiencing Pac-Man World for the first time via this remake where its roots are from? Just change Miss Pac-Man and boom, there you go, no legal issues. Plus, it still holds up to this day. Kinda. So why not, right? I don't know. Well, that was Pac-Man World Re-Pac. Dumb name, by the way. Definitely one of those remakes that exist. I will say the pros definitely outweigh the cons on almost every front here, except for what I've mentioned prior, and some extra gripes, like how unbelievably easy this version is. I mean, it could entirely be because I just finished the original right beforehand, so my skills have improved, but I managed to clear this whole thing in one night with like 90 lives left. And speaking of easy, this game actually has a separate easy mode. How do you make this easier. I never tried it, so I wouldn't know. And no, just because I died like 3 times doesn't mean I want to try it. Stop. But what is really atrocious is the Switch version, which is the one I played. So, in the settings, you can switch between resolution mode and performance mode, that I guess make the graphics better and drop it slightly in favor of smoother gameplay respectively. The game will automatically have this set to resolution mode, which drops the frame rate by a specific amount, which I didn't really notice at first, but after finding out about it and doing a comparison between the two... Oof. First of all, how is the Switch version not able to handle the best graphics for a fucking Pac-Man game? That just seems like poor porting. And second of all, what graphically changed to drop the frame rate so much? Cause I genuinely can't see shit. But what do I know? I don't specialize in this stuff, and am probably just accusing things that were out of the programmer's control. How cruel of me. The PS1 graphics were better anyways. See that? Yeah, you can't replicate that charm. Okay, this got too negative again, and I probably just made this remake look bad. Okay, time to backpedal. Hey, remember when I was wrong? Yeah, bet you forgot about that. Try trusting my opinions now. Saved it. But in all seriousness, I still stand by another statement I made on that same topic, and that is how Bandai Namco only sees Pac-Man as a nostalgia money grabber. Yeah, okay, Pac-Man World is great, it's better than this, and I'm glad it's back, but the philosophy they've been showing us hasn't changed. Same practice, different game. And yes, a remake of a 3D platformer takes more work than that of a 2D maze runner, but that won't stop me from being an ass until I get what I want, which is an entirely new Pac-Man adventure game. So until then, take some of these. The remake was still good though.